You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music means it is time once again to rock out here with the bi-weekly options party known as the Option Block. My name is Mark Longo. I will be your host, your guide, your leader through this crazy options journey here. And of course, you can listen to it in a legion of different places. Many of you have already discovered it. You're probably listening to it on demand right now on your platform of choice. If so, welcome, enjoy. If you like what you hear, keep rating and reviewing. It does help the new folks discover the content. As we've all seen, there are a lot of new folks these days. They need a bit of a guiding hand to the door of quality content and away from, shall we say, the hucksters and the flim-flam artists out there who are going to have them make $1 million tomorrow with no skill and no risk. So keep them out of that pool. Keep the options pie growing. Keep rating and reviewing. If you want to go above and beyond, you want to grow yourself, get into the old secret club. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go. A lot of great pro Q&As going up in there. And of course, options oddities every Friday and a bunch of other fun, great stuff throughout the week. Of course, coming up here, we're going to have the drawing soon for the October crate for the pro trading crate. You should see all the stuff we have piled up here in the studio against the wall. It's a lot. We've been raiding our vault to see what do we really have in here. It turns out there's a lot, a plethora of various items from throughout the last pretty much decade and a half. We've been doing this for a long time in the world of options. There are stuff from firms that don't even exist anymore in there. So there's one-off collector's items, unique bespoke crates. We give one of those away every month to our pro folks. Get on over there. TheOptionsInsider.com/pro is the place to go to learn more. And of course, keep sending those questions and comments in. We do love to hear from all of you guys and gals out there. Let's see who we're hearing from on the show today. First, let's go out to the quiet, the tranquil hamlet known as St. Charles, where we are joined once again by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the program, A, and B. Unfortunately, after your last appearance, several of our intrepid listeners went out and attempted to purchase UncleMike.com. And unfortunately, sir, it is taken, as is the UncleMike.com. So no joy for you there, sir. I'm sorry.
Then I guess people just have to follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW or go to my website, stcharleswealth.com. So unfortunately, Uncle Mike is taken. I apologize to all the listeners.
Yeah, except for that guy who's squatting on it. Probably he's going to, all of a sudden he saw his bid spike up. He's like, who wants this thing? Somebody wants UncleMike.com. Get him on the old social media now in the meantime, listeners. And of course, you can always go to the stormy shores of Maine if you want to see this person in person. Easy for me to say. Of course, beware, because it is dark and stormy, and there may be a few crickets or two still lurking around here and there, and they're kind of mad that the rest of their brethren have all been murdered. Yes, we are going to the GIOVINAZZI compound where we are joined by the rock lobster himself from the land of the pit. Mr. G, welcome back to the program, sir.
I don't know who's been murdered. I thought, a good handle for TOSAW would have been Uncle Mike at Portillos.com.
Yes.
I thought that would have been okay.
Yes, that would have been a good one as well, even though he thinks they only make burgers. So we'll have to educate him on all that goodness as we keep on rolling. It is time for the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the trading block, the portion of the show we break down what the heck is trading out there. And I'm pleased to say I had Portillo's last night, actually. And, given the popularity of this IPO, it's going to be something many of you are probably going to have a chance to have in the future. It won't just be a unique Chicago tradition anymore. My favorite, I'll go for the Italian beef and sausage combo. Delicious out there. Celebrating my son's victory in the citywide flag football tournament there. His school took home the championship belt. I wish it was a belt. That would be cool. It's a trophy, but nonetheless, we asked him what he wanted. He said Portillo. So there we go. Portillo's for celebrating all of your various fun milestones over there. Delicious stuff. And the stock, not looking too bad either. Let's see what Portillo's is up to today. Portillo's, of course, actually giving some back finally. Got up all the way to the about 46, I believe. Today, back shy of the 40 handle, 39.18. It's kind of been one of those weird days out there on the broad markets as well. Coming into the show now, we're seeing a lot of green on the screen, listeners, with the Dow up nearly 0.5%, playing the laggard once again. The S&P up about almost 0.75%, about 0.7%. And we got the NASDAQ up over a full 1%, closing in on 1.1%. So a lot of green on the screen. Not that long before showtime, we had the vol products still kind of up a little bit, and they kind of still are depending on where you're looking out there, but many of them have drifted towards the unched level now coming into the start of the show. When we kicked off the show, VIX cash is at about a 16.25. That still puts it up a point from where it was this time on our last show. And then VVIX, the vol of vol, at about 106.5. That puts it up almost 5 points, about 4.75 points from where it was on Monday's show. VXX, so the product everyone loves to fade out there, kind of getting back to unched right now at about 21.25. That's pretty much where it was on Monday's show. Same deal for UVXY, is at about a 16.25, 16.30 right now. That's at a pretty much unched out there as well. So from a vol perspective, it's been a whole heck of a lot of nothing. Oh, lest I forget, vol Q, the at the money vol of the NASDAQ 100, at about a 15.25. That's up slightly, up about 0.25 point. We're at about 15 on Monday's show. So that's our table. It has been set. Let's go back around the horn in the order of the way that we started. Let's go to Uncle Mike first. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, what is lighting up your tape on a decidedly Uncle Mike type of day?
Well, of course, we're up on the day. We still have not hit new all-time highs as of yet. So the highest we got today in the SPX so far is 45.92. That's 6 points off the all-time high that we had earlier in the week. So that's still a barrier. And as of right now, it looks like 4,600 is a kind of a tough nut to crack for this market. And with it, there are some things that are happening today after the market that could make it go higher. We got earnings from, there's some fruit company, I forget what it is, and then some river, I think, are having earnings later today. So we'll see if that can actually bump the markets higher in the post-market trading. So we have that happening. We had a little bit of a rally in the 10-year note earlier in the week. It's definitely selling off today. So what's always interesting to me is when we have the stock market rallying and the bond market rallying, or both of them selling off. A lot of times one of them corrects or reverses relatively soon. And as of today, it's the bond market that is correcting itself. So stocks are definitely continuing to going higher, making a run at what they had earlier in the week. S&P was down roughly, I think it was 23 points yesterday. Up 31 on the day today, so we're a little bit ahead of where we were yesterday at the highs, or yesterday where we were at the open, I should say. So we have that going for us. Oil is relatively quiet, or at least the energy stocks are. Looking at XLE, it's pretty much flat on the day, so we're not getting the oil that's bidding the market up at this point in time. But we do have a rally going in the financials. And then looking at the NASDAQ, or at least the Qs, were rallying there as well. So I think money's been shifting around over the course of the last couple of days, but ultimately, with where it's been shifting, has been a bullish benefit to the upside for those of us bulls out there. And with that, I will turn it back over to Mr. Longo.
At these levels, have you done any readjusting, any new put spreads to the downside, taking any deltas on or off the table? What have you been up to, sir?
I actually closed out a short call on a call spread yesterday, and with it, it became a lottery ticket. So if I don't have a lot on the table right now, but if we have a large move after our market today, I will have a lot on the table. Let's just say that.
Ooh, Uncle Mike swinging for the fences with the lottery tickets out there. Let's go on out now to the dark and stormy shores of Maine. Mr. Rock Lobster, we were not quite there, but we were flirting with the zone of the month the last time you and I chatted. Since then, we have rallied a little bit out there in the land of vol, and the markets are rallying today. So we'll see how these vol levels hold up. What is lighting up your tape and catching your eye out there today, sir?
Well, let's see here. One thing I found interesting was that they are basically rallying Apple before the earnings come out. So that was kind of a goofy one. Usually they wait for the earnings and then they rally the stock. So I thought that was unique. Let's call it unique.
Who waits for earnings in the post-pandemic era? That's so passé. That's so 2019, sir.
Yeah, and and then again, a 1% move, VIX 16, like 1% rallies. Feeling a little 1999-esque. And an interesting stat, over a 6-month period, I think, or was it a 1-year period from 1999 to like March of 2000? I think we rallied like 100% in the Q. I'm pretty sure. So I saw that stat on Twitter. It just kind of reminded me of the good old days, when everybody was a genius because you buy calls and they just went up. I remember options level bull market. So don't expect to see. It's again, I think what we kind of have now is now all of a sudden we have some pretty steep rallies. So it's hard for, so you're not going to see those lower VIX numbers. Those things, of course, Apple and Amazon earnings, but I mean, they've rallied Apple, I think, to close to an all-time high. What was it, like 155 or something? I mean, feel like we're kind of sitting right there. 152.30. So, all these stocks have pretty healthy multiples at this point. It doesn't mean they can't get much, much bigger. Microsoft had a good little run yesterday. What was it, up $15 or something like that? So that's like a 5% move. A 5% move for Apple could be substantial as well, right? So that could be another $7. So, the pandemic has been good to big tech. That's all I'm going to say. It seems that it hasn't been as good to everybody else, but it's certainly been good to big tech and Tesla and stuff like that, where they've navigated everything. So again, I don't know how long this rally lasts. I'm still not really seeing great underlying fundamental economic news, right? Which generally the good news, but I guess on the flip side, right, corporate earnings are great. So, which it all kind of is very bizarre, right? Because the government, you've got this spending bill coming and all this crazy taxes coming, and now you have the supply chain. Like somehow, like all these problems are not coming into corporate earnings somehow. So, however that happens, it's happening. As you move forward, yeah, how high can stocks go? Who knows? Like TOSAW was talking about 4,600. Why not? Why not higher? I think Apple tomorrow will be the end of big tech, and most of the big earnings are out. And I believe they most of them outperform quite well. So, and we have a market that reflects it. So how high can we go? Who knows? I mean, I can't see us not continuing to rally into the end of the year. The spending package is down to $1.7 trillion that we don't have on top of the other spending packages. And the deficit spending, I don't know really what. Again, whatever our congressmen smoke, it must be some good stuff. That's all I'm going to say. So anyway, here we are. We sit, vol futures VXX is close to the all-time low. I think it's got another point to go. And the second part is next week, because there's some elections coming up, and we also have, the Fed is talking about taper. And I believe the market is definitely, is kind of warming to the fact that that's going to happen, which, to be honest, I think is good. It's about time to, let things fly a little bit here. And we'll see how that all goes, to be honest. So as of right now, earnings have been pretty fantastic, I think, overall. You've got all-time high stock prices. We certainly don't have all-time low vol because the market's moving. That's the simplest thing I can say. And we'll see how long the whole show lasts.
So far, it's been quite a show, and it's been running for over 18 months. Can the show continue? We shall see. Let's see what kind of show we're getting today, listeners. It's kind of a weird one out there. It depends where you're hanging your hat. And wait till we get to the single names. You're not gonna believe what's topping the list out there today. We'll get there in a second. First, let's start in the land of the major indices. And if you'd be forgiven if you pulled up VIX today and thought maybe it was a weekend and things were closed, because there's not a heck of a lot going on in VIX. 84,000 contracts on the tape. That may sound like a lot, but for VIX, it's kind of a rounding error. It's nothing. The ADV is 436 out there right now. It has come down a little bit as well. That was north of 450. But not even 100,000 contracts on the tape in VIX. So we have seen some movement in vol today, and yet it seems like nobody cares about VIX right now. SPY, a little bit of a different story, at about 2.25 million, almost 2.3 million contracts right now. The ADV about 5.3 million. So decent paper out there, but not even half of its ADV. The S, 593,000. So broad index paper, kind of light, except for the Qs. We'll get there in a second. The SPX at about 593. The ADV, 1.6 million out there. The Qs, kind of the bright spot out here, the lone bright spot, really. Well past half of their ADV. They're at about 1.2, almost closing in on 1.25 million contracts. The ADV, 1.65 million. So once again, the Qs leading the charge in the net movement and also leading the charge in the overall volume race out there today. Small caps also looking pretty robust. 432,000 contracts on the tape in IWM. The ADV, 567. So small caps pushing it there as well. We'll get more into that a little bit later in RUT and all that goodness with our buddy Mr. Dan Gramza coming up on TWIFO in a little bit over an hour today. Listen, Dan could talk about just about any futures topic under the sun. So get ready for an interesting show. It should be fun. Speaking of interesting, let's get into some of this madness in the single names. It's a pretty crazy day, listeners, when it cost you over 250,000 contracts to break into the top 10. 256 to be precise. That gets you for a tie for number 10/9 with AMC and also Plug Power, both of them at 256K there. So holding down the bottom of our top 10. So it's a robust day. Cost you 250,000. That's kind of my barometer for an active day. If it's north of 250,000 to break into the top 10, things are popping off. Less than that, maybe not. Number 8, Softy, doing some business out there today to the tune of 314,000 contracts on the tape. Number 7, Merck. Haven't seen them in the top 10 in a little bit. They're back there today. 316,000 contracts. Number 6, the other half of our freshly coined symbol twinology. AMD, they're well ahead of AMC. AMC 256, AMD 461. So putting up some paper out there today. Number 5, Facebook. Hasn't been a good time for headlines from Facebook. Been a decent time for volume, though. 477. So we're at number 5. We're already at nearly 500,000 contract listeners. That way, it's a pretty robust day. Then number 4, we just jump up another order of magnitude. It's Ford. Is it a meme stock? Is it not a meme stock? Who the hell cares? Because it's printing paper out there today. Moving quite a bit as well. Up 8.5%. out there threatening the 17 handle, 16.83. It got there earlier today, got up to almost 17 and a half, 17.58 looks like actually. So nice run there for Ford. We'll get to Tesla in a little bit out there. So all those folks who were loading up on Ford calls of late, they were just, a couple of months early. The 17 halves, the 18s, the 20s. We saw a rash of that back in kind of mid to late summer. But maybe if they were a little bit longer term, perhaps they had a chance. 1.25 million contracts for Ford. Is it a meme stock? It sure is today. Number 3, yes, I said number 3, it's Apple. 1.34 million contracts on the tape. That's usually enough for number 1 out there. That's usually a pretty active day for Apple at this point, but not today, even though, as the Rock Lobster alluded to, they are getting some nice pre-earnings movement up about almost 2.5%, 3.5 handles, 152 and about a third out there right now. So getting back a lot of what they had given up out there. They were trading not too long ago back down around 140 back, just a few weeks ago out there in October. So it seemed like maybe some of the bloom had come off the rose in Apple and now coming right back on there. And then number 2, yes, I said number 2, it's Tesla. They've been making some headlines out there of late. Everyone talking about how much more money Musk has. But also a lot of paper on the Tesla tape out there today to the tune of 1.4 million contracts. Again, that would usually be enough for number 1 today, but not the case. Tesla over the 1,000 level at the the $1 trillion market cap level, which is just insane. I mean, we just saw Apple break it for the first time not that long ago. And now here we are with Tesla joining the ranks out there as well. Up 34 handles or about 3.3%. That means what the heck is number 1, listeners? It's a name that's been in our top 10 before, but not that often, even though lately, given all the hype about Tesla and EVs, it has been making more frequent appearances. But today, listeners, it is off to the races. It is Lucid Group, the parent company of course, Lucid Motors. 1.75 million contracts on the tape right now, listeners. That is some paper. It's dwarfing Apple. It's dwarfing Tesla. It's dwarfing Facebook. It's dwarfing. You can take Facebook and Ford and add them together. And both of them are doing ridiculous numbers. And you don't get Lucid right now. So that's just how much paper is going up in Lucid. Seemed like it might be merited. The stock's up about over a third, up nearly 36%, nearly 10 handles today, trading right around 36.75 out there. So a huge pop in Lucid, nearly $10 today. How high did it get intraday? Let's see. It looks like it got up to about 38.84, so over about exactly 2 points higher. So quite the run in Lucid. Looks like they've announced some of their first deliveries coming in October. They're calling it their Dream Delivery event. So that seems to be enough to, of course, obviously the reflected Tesla glow is also lifting all of these EV names out there as well. No NIO today, which is where usually NIO is a perennial top 10er, and when there's EV news, usually NIO's hanging out in the top 10. Not today. We got Plug Power in there instead, and Lucid taking the top. That was unexpected, but very active out there today. Lucid Motors, going to add them to the meme crew if they keep this up. Let's see what's going on out there from an earnings perspective. Like the Rock Lobster alluded to, it's been a hot and heavy, fast and furious season. You guys can crunch all the numbers for yourselves in your hot little hands because we like you completely for free. TheOptionsInsider.com. Click on the Options News and Articles tab. What will you get there? All of our articles and news, obviously, but also earnings move results, and earnings season reports, courtesy of our friends over there in Orat's Land. Just chatted with Matt a couple of sessions ago on Tuesday there for the advisors option. I hit the network yesterday, so you guys should have that in your ear holes already if you haven't listened to it. And he does a great breakdown of all the numbers and what they've been seeing out there from an earnings vol perspective. Check that out if you are intrigued by this kind of stuff, and I got a feeling that you might be. So a lot of the FANG names were popping off this week. We had Facebook on Monday, as well as Otis Elevator. Not quite a FANG name, but an intriguing one nonetheless. Tuesday, we had UPS, JetBlue, Hasbro, Eli Lilly, AMD, Softy, and Alphabet, a.k.a. formerly the G of the FANGs. Visa, Twitter, and Robinhood. Robinhood taking a shellacking these days. I think all the back and forth over PFOF, not exactly looking good for them, dragging them down a bit. Wednesday, we had our friends across the street, Boeing. We had GM, we had Coca-Cola, we had Mickey D's, Spotify, Six Flags, the aforementioned Ford, and eBay. And today we got Merck, we got Comcast, and we got two big A's coming out today. We got Apple and Amazon after the bell, as well as S-Bucks and Gilead. Tomorrow we got Chevron and some other names popping off after the bell. Let's go to the earnings move results reports. First, Merck before the bell today. 81.5 is where they went into their announcement. They were pricing in 2%. They delivered 5.1%. So Merck on the rampage out there, getting some outperformance. That's good to see out there, given all that. Up 6.2% now. So even more outperformance if you expand that frame of reference a little bit. Remember, these reports, the results reports are taken kind of in the immediate snapshot post-earnings. All right, let's go to the one you're all waiting for. Ford, they were after the bell yesterday. They were, they were at 15.51 going into their announcement. They were pricing in 4.9%. We know they outperformed that. They delivered nearly 8.5%, almost 9%. So a nice run there for Ford. And if you waited a little longer, they're still up about 8.5%. They got higher intraday. So nice pop for Ford. So we are seeing, looking at this list, actually, we're seeing a lot more outperformance, which is something that Matt was predicting. I was kind of wondering if we were getting to that inflection point. Maybe in the near term, it seems like that's the case. eBay, yesterday after the bell, 77.66 is where they were trading going into their announcement. They're pricing in 5.5%. They delivered 7.5% to the dark side. So we don't care about direction, member listeners. We just care about net movement. So a little bit of outperformance there as well. Interesting. Then it kind of falls off there. It looks like in the results report for yesterday and today, it seems like we do have on balance more outperformance than not, which in and of itself is a complete anomaly. If you've been listening to this show for the last 18 months or so, you know it's been underperformance pretty much all the time. Let's scroll down here a little, man. There's so many names popping off here, listeners. You could scroll for days out here. Let's see. What else do we have on the list out there today? I guess we can go to Comcast. Why not? Comcast, they're today before the bell. 52.5 is where they were trading. And they're pricing in 3.1%. Comcast gets a big wah-wah because they only delivered about 0.5%. So they fall back into our usual earnings cycle of underperformance. It kind of has been a weird season as well. First week, knocked it out of the park, 107%. One of the first really dramatic outperformance weeks we've seen almost since the start of the pandemic. It seemed like the season was exploding out of the gate and all the predictions of outperformance were going to hold true. Then week 2, it fell off a cliff, 55%. So shows that this is still a volatile time for predicting earnings volatility. And then this week kind of splitting the difference so far at 77%, but obviously we still have some big names to come this week. So it's still anyone's ball game this season, how it's going to shape up. So far right now, it's still looking better than a lot of the other seasons have at 71%. Will we stay at that level, drop down, or will we rally north? Only time will tell, because we got some big ones popping off just after the bell today and tomorrow, listeners. We got Chevron tomorrow before the bell. 112, pretty much even is where they were trading as of this report. Again, these reports hot off the presses from our friends over there at Oratsland. They should be available on the site by the time you're hearing this. 182 is what they were pricing in. The past, they moved $2.50. So that's kind of the reports we're used to seeing out there these days. The name everybody's waiting for after the bell today, Apple. They were at 148.85 when they crunched the numbers. They were pricing in 416. In the past, they've moved 582. And again, they're already up a couple of bucks already today, so they're already getting some of that move already. So still pricing in less juice. Hard to argue that isn't the savvier play out there these days. And hey, it also makes them poised for outperformance if something crazy should happen. The Amazonians, everyone's been hinting at, is there going to be a split? They're going to announce a split out there. The stock certainly could perhaps merit it. You could split this 10-for-1 and it would still be over $300. 33.92 out there in the Amazonians right now. They were pricing in 123.5. In the past, they moved 147.5. So a lot less juice on the tape out there in Amazon. But if they announce that split, then perhaps all bets are off. If past is prologue, look at Apple and Tesla. Just off to the races, right? In terms of once you split, it's like you're printing money. I'm surprised more names haven't followed down that path there. Starbucks tomorrow after the bell, 113.5. They were pricing in $4. In the past, they moved $4.30. So a little bit lighter juice out there as well. Again, there are names for days here, folks, for you guys to sink your teeth into. TheOptionsInsider.com. Options, news, and articles tab is where to go to begin your journey. As we have to go right on into our next segment, it is time for the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for The Odd Block.
All right, everybody. Let's do it. Let us unleash the Eye of Sauron and see where it fixes its gaze today. You know, we talked about this. It's a very active single name day. Not that many crazy, sizable prints going up out there today, but we'll see what we can find for you nonetheless. First off, day like today, listeners, I think I know where you want the Eye of Sauron to fix its gaze. First, it's that A name everyone's talking about these days. Yup, I'm talking about ALTO Ingredients. Ticker symbol ALTO. Where'd you think I was going? Listeners, they are in the ag products sector, trading right now 5 1/4, up about 16 cents or 3 1/4% today. Over the past year, it looks like it's been a topsy-turvy one here for ALTO Ingredients. My goodness. A year ago, it was trading 6.18, so higher than it is right now. Then they sold off pretty much not that far from where they are right now, right down to 5.68. And then they bounced up. It went in pretty much one session from 5.68 up to 7.18. And then the next session, they dropped right back down to 5.79. So they've had a lot of spikes like that over the course of the past year, listeners. November 18th, they were trading 5.55. By the 19th, they were trading, looks like on 20th, they were trading 6.79. Then right back down again a week later to 5.77 again. They did that multiple times. They hit their 52-week high on February 10th. They got up to $8.34. And then they started selling off again. Even though they fought it, they spiked it a number of times. This thing looks like it had just crazy surges in paper to drive it to the upside and then immediately falling back off again. By April 20th, they were back down to 473. So they had pretty much been cut almost in half from their 52-week high not that long earlier. So, and then they rallied again. They got back up to, on June 1st, they got up to 687. And then they started selling off again by July 19th. They got down to 490 again. Then they started selling off more. They got down to their 52-week low on August 20th for right around 439. So obviously they have rallied since then. Much of that coming in the last month or so. September 29th is when the rally seemed like it started kicking off. They were trading 476, and then they got up to about 578 on October 13th. And then they kind of hovered that level for a little bit. Then they gave it up. They gave it up again on October 25th. They went from 573 down to 512 a session or so later. And then they've trying to rebound ever since, right? The last couple of sessions back up again. So, yeah, this is a surprisingly volatile name here. This chart is all over the place out here. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found. Perhaps it is all over the place as well. It looks like someone is wagering that the near-term upside, listeners, is going to be kind of muted, at least for the next few weeks to no expiration, listeners. Someone coming in, dumping the 5 calls, so pretty much in the money calls now. The stock's trading 528 for 43 cents, doing it 5,000 times on the bid. If you're wondering, it's a 63 vol. That sounds about right, given what we're seeing out here in this name. This name moves around quite a bit. If it wasn't something in the 20s, I would have been surprised. Let's see. The stock, when they went up, was pretty much right around here, right around 5 1/4. And there are earnings in this as well. There are earnings on the 2nd. So they're getting a decent amount of juice here, a decent amount of premium. Looks like they're probably trying to maybe unload some stock as well. Maybe they're just tired of all the fluctuations in this name. They want to get the heck out of Dodge. They just want to pare down their holdings. Maybe they think this thing is destined for the dumpster after earnings, in which case maybe you don't just sell a call. Maybe you sell a stock or you do something else. But I digress. Mr. Rock Lobster, someone's hitting the bid in ALTO Ingredients. Sounds like they're just done with all this back and forth, sir.
This is like totally new to me, ALTO Ingredients.
That's why it's odd. That's why it's odd, sir.
I had to read it. They have 4 markets. They have home, beauty, health, food, beverage, and essential ingredients and renewable fuels.
Oh, that last, because that all goes together. You can put all that in one building, right? Why not?
I think they distill stuff. They're some sort of distillery, and it also operates as an ethanol distillery, it looks like. Hey, if you don't like what you're drinking, just pour it into your car. What the heck, right?
Make moonshine. You double as an alternative fuel company. I like it. That's a twofer.
I mean, it's got. There's growth prospects there. It's based in California. They got to find something to. They have to find, like, if you can't use gas in California, I guess you can use ethanol, right? As long as you distill it in the state. I just find this funny. Anyway, oh my gosh, I have to get back to the actual volume that you have produced here. Somebody selling some covered calls. Yeah, again, these after the untold riches we have made writing calls in EDU, I don't know. Maybe I should start writing calls on this 5 stock.
This one moves.
Well, you buy 1,000 shares or 2,000 shares, and you sell. I mean, a couple, 20 calls. That's almost $900. So, hey, So all I can say is, if you're taking out, you're still making almost 10% for a month. I don't know about anybody else, but 10% for a month is not bad. So I'm going to give this a green light. Not bad. What the heck? Write it up. What I do like is that it's only really about, it's less than 30 days away. So, you're doing better than 10% a month. You're doing pretty well.
The Rock Lobster likes it. He's going to do it right now as we speak, listeners. As we head on into our next name, we're going back to a hot meme type name. Is it a meme? This week it is. Certainly it is Ford. Right now, listeners, you know the tale of Ford. You don't need me to break down the sordid saga, the drama that is Ford, but looking pretty good today. The chip shortage apparently not holding them back. Nice pop today, up 8.6%. Someone coming in deciding, you know what, Mr. Rock Lobster, they saw all that other crazy paper going up in the past, the AUG 20s and 17 halves and 19s and 18s and all that stuff. And they decided, you know what, the mistake those people made was they went too far out. They gave themselves too much time for those trades to work out. This guy decided he's going to do the opposite. He's going to go swing for the fences, but he's only going to give himself, about a week change. He's someone coming in today, scooping up nearly 5,000, 49.17 of the Nov 19s expiring on the 5th, next Friday, listeners. They lifted the offer for 11 cents. It's a 60 vol if you are curious out there. The stock was a little bit north of 17, a little bit higher when they went up. It was about 17, 18 at the time. But still, this is a rich one. Ford has already given you a lot here, asking for another almost $2 whole in a little over a week. Mr. Rock Lobster, is this perhaps the bridge too far? Did this guy learn the opposite of the lesson, perhaps, that he should have learned as other people, sir? More time, not less.
I think the problem is this meme generation has just wrecked a bunch of people trading options because, you have these untold riches so quickly now that, like, hey, I'm just going to buy calls that are 30% out of the money and they're going to go to, $4 or $5 and I only pay 11 cents for them. So I think people have been trained. They've been trained on that. So, that's what we got at this point. So I don't see like there's anything, could it work? Sure. But I just, they keep doing it and, it's possible these could pay, but again, it's not on, I would say the more, S&P 500 style stocks. You don't really see it that often. Obviously, with GME added to the Russell and or GME and what is it? What's the other one? That's the AMC, biggest market caps in the Russell. You look at that, you kind of shake your head. And the fact that GameStop is still a $180 stock is kind of funny. Anyway. But I think, just there's a generation of, you see the volume go up, huge volume near the money. And options are, 7, 8, 11 cents. And just people buy tons and tons of them. And, you only need one to work. And that pays for the whole scene again. So it does not appear that is stopping anytime soon. That's all I'm going to say with that.
Yeah, what's 50 grand amongst friends, right? Just let the dice fly here on a weekly in Ford. You're right, it can happen, but if past is prologue, these people will probably join the legions of who have wasted money on Ford upside. Ford doing some numbers today, obviously. 17 halves are the big contract. Again, not exactly that surprising. Got up to that level this morning. Almost 100,000 of those alone on the tape today, followed by almost 100,000 of the 17s and about 45,000 of the 16s on the tape already today. So, and add in 5,000 of the no 19s expiring next week. We'll keep an eye on those. We'll come back, see how those good ones did. Speaking of coming back, we have filled our docket, listeners, with names to review that have just been popping off left, right, and center. Let's get to one of those now, listeners. Let's go back to September 20th. So a little over a month ago, listeners, on the show, we profiled some puts, quite a few puts actually, in Bloom Energy Corp. This is a solid oxide fuel manufacturer out of San Jose, California. And I won't tell you, ticker symbol BE, I won't tell you where they're trading right now, even though these options have already expired. It's a little bit of a spoiler. We'll get to that. At the time, we profiled, listeners, a whole bunch of people, or one person selling a whole bunch, drawing a pretty large line in the sand there on the OC16 strike. In particular, we saw 12,120 of the OC16 puts going up through the bid. They were bid 25 cents. They went up for 20 cents. So a clear sign that bid wasn't good for much. And then more came in, 3,000 more for 25 cents. We saw 1,200 more for 20 cents. A total of about 17,000 going up on the day, listeners. So someone really wanted to draw a pretty aggressive line in the sand on these bad boys here. And it looks like Mr. Rock Lobster, as many of them have, the line in the sand ended up working out here. Because, oh, by the way, where was the stock when these went up? The stock was 1868. So, I say aggressive. It wasn't that aggressive from a strike perspective. They got a decent amount. It was aggressive on the fill. They really had to crush the bid to get these done. But from a line in the sand perspective, it was still almost 270 out of the money at that point. And it looks like this person was on the right direction because the stock turned around and it closed on expiration at 21.13. These puts never really came to fruition in any meaningful degree. And go figure, they were all still open at expiration, listeners. So on that initial print, the paper made about almost $250,000, about $240,000. If you add in all the rest of the volume of that day, it's around $340, $350 that they took home, all things considered, Mr. Rock Lobster. So not bad. Almost $250,000. That'll get you your nice girlfriend's Ferrari, Mr. Rock Lobster. You get up to $350. You could have maybe his and hers matching Ferrari, sir.
Well, of course, I guess that's what you want. But this Bloom Energy is an interesting one. And I'm kind of a knucklehead. I keep forgetting every time these world climate bloviation sessions happen, all of these EV stocks fly. And they sell the oils and they buy the EV stocks. And I totally forgot about it. I was keyed into it. Then, life got a little difficult early and I just forgot, basically. And then here we are, as they all talk in Scotland, about, they just have to get China to stop burning, a gajillion tons of coal a year, I guess, to offset what everybody else does. But that being said, I think somebody drew a line in the sand in these puts. And again, this is a company that it kind of reminds me of Fuel Cell and some of the other like hydrogen. They're all kind of right on the edge of sort of doing something. Now this company actually has revenue. So it has the, but none of them have taken off like Tesla, obviously. But still, it looks like they're, just waiting for them to become profitable, basically. They got some revenues, they do some interesting stuff, and just, businesses just jumping over to adopt some of these different types of energy generation technologies. That's it. So that's kind of where Bloom sits in all of this.
And where do you guys sit in all this? Let's find out, listeners. It is time for the mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the mail block.
All right, let's get to this, listeners, because we got some questions of the week popping off. But we just had a flash poll expire that I want to get to because CBOE breaking some news yesterday, right before our options bootcamp program. I chatted about this with Dan on that show. That'll be going. If you're in the Secret Club, you already heard that chat. If not, you'll listen to it next week when it hits the network, listeners. But yeah, CBOE coming out yesterday. How often have we been talking on this show and others? It seemed like the time was ripe for the return of some sort of mini option back to the fray. The industry tried it, 1/10 size contracts not that long ago. It fell flat on its face for a variety of reasons we've already laid out many times here on the network. But it seemed like, there was something in the air. Obviously, all these new players coming in that are much smaller size traders, the notion of and the popularity of things like fractional shares, the exploding and skyrocketing valuations of all these tech names. A lot of things were hinting at, the time was ripe to come back to this. And, CBOE stole a march on everybody yesterday. Not only did they come back and say minis, minis, the hell with minis. Well, who needs 1/10 size? We are going 1/100th size. Yes, these are now effectively one multiplier options that they launched or they announced yesterday, launching in Q1 of next year, listeners. They're calling them Nanos by CBOE. And they're saying it's the first of its kind contract designed for you retail folks out there to simplify trading 1/100th the size. So effectively, remember, every standard equity option has a 100 multiplier. So it's for 100 shares. These eschew all of that. One contract, one share. There's a lot to unpack with this. We have a question of the week about this as well. We'll get to that in a second. But first, I got to go around the horn and take everyone's pulse on this. Everyone's hitting us up about this. It's a hot thing. Let's go around the horn. Mr. Uncle Mike, we shall start with you, sir. What are your thoughts on this pending launch, this pending introduction of not just a mini, sir, not just 1/10, but a nano, a 100th, a 1-to-1 option contract, pretty much for the first time, sir?
If it works, I love the idea because I know that how many people out there would love to sell covered calls on Amazon, but they don't have $300,000-400,000 grand sitting around to do that. And I think for the retail trader, if it's a tight enough bid ask and commissions are fair, I think it could be a good thing. So, I mean, right now, I don't know how you would do commissions because let's say that you're getting charged, there's no ticket charge and you're getting charged 60 cents for an option contract at a broker, which is fairly common with a lot of brokers in the retail world. How do you do that? Do you charge half a penny per option contract with that? I don't understand how that would work because I don't see brokers doing that or even charging a penny per option contract for that matter, because I don't think they'd make any money on it and not want to have anything to do with it. Also, I don't know how the bid-ask spread would be on it because I remember when we had the minis before, it was not too friendly. So I think if we could get it to work, meaning if we can get a fair commission price and we could also get a tight enough bid-ask spread, I would absolutely love the idea for the retail world. But those two things proved to be very challenging the last time around. So if it works, I love it. If those two things don't happen, it'll fall on its face.
Yeah, obviously the devil is in the details with something like this. A lot of people have the same thing you have on your brain. J4340 chiming in saying, are they going to have nano-sized bid-ask spreads? Yeah, that was one of the things that fell apart with the original minis, listeners. The liquidity providers didn't really get on board with them, so the spreads were wider than a traditional options bid-ask spread. So already you were paying a premium, a cost to trade that mini. And then on top of that, they were still charging full commissions. Commission's a bit of a different beast these days, so that should maybe ease that a little bit. But it was a demonstrable cost to trade the minis versus the traditional options. We'll see if that remains the case with these nanos. Mr. Rock Lobster, what are you and your crazies and your pit chat What do you guys all think of this proposed 1-to-1 option contract, sir?
Again, it's just, I think the whole reason the other ones failed just was the last time was the same reason, just the commission structure versus what the contracts were. And the bid ask was ridiculous. I just agree with Mike. It's, you get like the devil's in the details, right? So I think they would have to get a lot right to entice people to trade these contracts, would be my view. So, I don't see how that would really appeal. I mean, people want to do, maybe in a couple of big stocks or something, but I mean, it's how they roll it out. I think that would be ultimately the big thing. And there would be like 10 stocks that might trade on. That's the only thing I could say. So, and so we'll see. So we'll see if it gets everybody excited, but this in this new meme era, I don't know. People might really embrace it, but they seem to be embracing the standard contract size too. So, when something goes up $1 and they make just $1, I think that might. We'll see.
It doesn't have the magic. It doesn't have the magic of a hundo. I only made $1. What kind of?
Wow, I made $1.50.
We just had that poll last week, right? And everyone said they dove into options for leverage. It does remove that very key aspect of leverage. In fact, we asked our listeners, the flash poll just ended right before this segment. We asked you guys. We said, hey, what do you guys think of these? These are new nanos on a single share of the underlying. Do you plan to trade these when they launch sometime next year? I was surprised. Almost 2/3, 64.3% saying no. Only about a third, 35.7% saying yes. I thought, given what we've seen with the interest in fractional shares and everything else out there, and a lot of one-lot traders out there, that there would be more people excited by this. Well, again, we do have a very savvy audience, and many of them know of or were around for the first time that we did this with the minis. And so they may be saying, fool me once, shame on you, fool you twice, shame on me. They're going to probably play wait and see, like Uncle Mike was saying. They want to see the spreads. They want to see how the commission structure works out. And then maybe they'll dive into this. I should note this is coming out from the CBOE. So they're going to list these first on CBOE proprietary products. So you're not getting your Apples and your Teslas. You're going to get SPX first. So that's a bit of a different beast. I would imagine VIX will be somewhere in that offering as well. That's the other big, obviously, proprietary product coming out of a CBOE. But then, if these things take off, the sky's the limit. Other people will jump in on this multiplier gravy train, and we will see the Teslas and the Apples and everything else, every other meme name you want under the sun. You want Beto in a 1-to-1, you could have it. So, yeah, this is interesting. I'm with a lot of you folks out there. I do want to see this a good idea and concept. I think there is an audience for this in spite of what our audience says out there today. There are people who will trade this. It's just a question of if it's going to cost more and be less liquid, then who the hell is going to touch them? You really need to make sure the market makers are on board first and foremost. And then B, you got to make sure that the brokers get that this is not some sort of key to just try to squeeze money out of people. The exchanges also have to remember too, they got to back off on some of their exchange fees. Everyone tried to it was like pigs lining up at the trough when the minis went out the first time, and that killed it. So people have to dial back some of their profit expectations. Let these things grow. Let's make a real market first. Let's build some demand, and then you could hopefully make it back on the volume, as opposed to getting in there up front and trying to just gouge everyone, and it ends up killing the product. So interesting stuff. Our audience, a very savvy bunch, saying, we're going to wait and see. I can't fault you on this, but it was a kind of out of left field announcement. A lot of you were asking us about it, so we had to get to it today. We'll have more thoughts on this, I'm sure, as this proposal evolves, as other people, I'm sure, try to get into the 1-to-1 fray. CBOE kicking it off. They won't be the last, I'm sure, but intriguing stuff nonetheless. But now it is time for us to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
Listeners in our chat saying everyone's printing money, just go out and hold Shiba Inu. Well, if you've been holding that of late, you've been doing all right. Maybe drinks are on you there, Mr. Unlimited there. Yeah, if you're holding on some SHIBA late, I haven't looked at what it's been today. It's doing 45% in a day sometime. That thing is just insane. So good for you, I guess, all you out there, SHIBA holders. Just keep holding them. What's the worst that could happen, right? All right, let's go around the horn. Mr. Uncle Mike, A, how much SHIBA are you holding these days? And then B, what are you keeping an eye on until our next show on Monday, where we can also talk some wrestling, sir?
Well, I tripled my holdings yet again in SHIBA. But what the heck? I'll quadruple them. Why not? I'll do that in another minute. So that's where my SHIBA update. But definitely watching the earnings announcements after market tonight, seeing what that can do to if that does anything to the market as a whole, and also seeing how the 10-year note will react to it, seeing if it can hold some of the gains that it's had from this week or whether it will pull back. And I think 4,600 in the SPX is proving to be a key number, at least as of now.
Yahoo Finance running with this story now. They tracked the wallets and they saw someone bought $8,000 worth of SHIBA last August. That is now worth $5.7 billion. It is up more than 7 million%. That's the kind of stuff people love to fixate. That's what makes headlines in the world of crypto. But $8,000 on SHIBA, last August, what were you thinking? This thing was a nonsense joke, but hey, it was worth $8,000 to him. And now that $8,000 is worth $5.7 billion. Insane times that we live in, listeners. Mr. Rock Lobster, how much SHIBA do you own? And then what are you keeping an eye on for the rest of this week, at least until Vol Views tomorrow, sir?
Well, let's see. I'm, again, looking at seeing how the market, it can continue to power higher on Amazon and Apple earnings tomorrow. I mean, bank earnings are pretty good. I don't think we've seen much from the oil companies yet. Those are good. I guess Chevron's coming out today, I think you said. And we'll see. And we'll see what happens. Because I think next week too, we have a little bit of referendum on the Biden administration with some governor races coming, and we also have the Fed talking taper. So, either way, I think next week could actually be something. So. I don't know how low vol gets this week. What did I say? I thought I was saying 14 and change for VIX, and I know we touched on it. I can't remember if I was on vol views last week or not because my brain is all addled. But I think I was. It wasn't with Matt. But yeah, we could see if they mark down into the weekend. So we're close, and we'll see if we can have a sub 15 handle settle. So that would be about 1.5 points. I think that would be very strong. I mean, the rally we're having today is we're just rallying, I guess. So I guess anyway. So that's it. That's what I'm watching. I'm waiting for these earnings.
And unfortunately, that music means we can no longer wait for anything here on the show. But before we go, I should remind you, if you want more in your ear holes, you're listening live. Stay tuned, pump some fun stuff into the live chat. Back in a little less than half an hour now with the one and only Mr. Dan Grams to break down everything going on in the world of futures options. Spoiler alert, it's a lot. So stay tuned for that. But before we go, let's go back around the horn. Mr. Rock Lobster, we'll start with you, sir. If folks are intrigued, they want to hit you up to talk about any of these topics, maybe Shiba Inu coin in depth, where should they go? What should they do?
Go to optionpit.com memberships and Shiba Inu coin. I wonder if somebody really bought $8,000 for that. I guess why not? Why not? Why wouldn't you, right?
They can now buy a small island nation with that money.
I think I guess if you think it depends. If you don't think the dollar would be worth anything, I mean, somebody has to wonder why everybody's buying these cryptos. I think there's a lot of money. I guess this country is really good at generating a lot of bucks, especially when we print it.
Head to optionpit.com. I do have bad news, listeners. Shiba Inu coin can sell off. It is off 6% today. So there actually can be red in that madness out there. In the meantime, I'm joking. Don't hit them up about Shiba Inu unless you want a good laugh. But Vol and VIX and all that fun stuff, optionpit.com. Mr. Uncle Mike, if folks want to debate with you your crypto holdings or perhaps talk about, let's say, covered calls and rolling puts, where should they go? What should they do?
Feel free to reach out to me. You can check out my website, stcharleswealth.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at Mike TOSAW if you would like to see some of the content that I put out and you'd like to work with a financial advisor who doesn't do crypto, but definitely likes the option products.
If you're wondering, the typical hold time of Shiba Inu is only 14 days. I had no idea it was that quick of a churn and burn. There you go. All the facts about Shiba Inu you could possibly want to know. We won't be getting into them on TWIFO, listeners, but fun stuff nonetheless. Remember, come on back in about 24 minutes for that. If you're listening after the fact, just hit next on your podcast device of choice, and TWIFO will be waiting there for you. Of course, back again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern for volatility views, and for all of you Secret Club members, options oddities after that, 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern, break down the insane world of unusual options activity in all of its glory. And then, of course, back again on Monday, another episode of the Option Block. We'll see you then.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.